Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is back for a little bit more SPTV, where every day's a great day not to be in a cult. David Miscavige has been put on notice. The gauntlet has been thrown down. He's been issued an ultimatum. Scientology's tiny little angry leader has been told, it's time to put up or shut up. What are we talking about here, guys? Well, if you watch my videos somewhat regularly, you might know that Scientology, about 4 months ago, started having secret negotiations with the city to buy a street. We're talking about Clearwater, Florida, Scientology's biggest base, its biggest organization, its most important organization, the only organization in Scientology that its tiny little leader, David Miscavige, personally oversees. It's called FLAG, the Flag Land Base, the Flag Service Organization. Sometimes they even call it the Mecca, believe it or not. Scientology wants to buy a street in downtown Clearwater. They got so tired of having to secretly snap up all the private property they can. They decided to go to the city and just say, can you sell us a street? And believe it or not, 3 of the 5 Clearwater, Florida city council members were like, sure. And this blew up a few weeks ago when the people of the citizens of Clearwater found out about it for the first time. And there's been quite a backlash to the 3 council members who have supported this project. David Miscavige needs 3 votes. There's 5 city council members. He needs 3 votes. He got 3 votes on the first reading and the first vote. He needed 3 votes on the second reading and the second vote. But at the meeting where the proposal was read for the second time and was going to be voted on for the second time, another man named Brooks Gibbs stepped up with his group and made a competing proposal to buy the street for a project that would benefit all of Clearwater and not just Scientology. There's been an awful lot of behind-the-scenes work being done to try and get the city council members to understand why selling this street to Scientology would be disastrous for the city of Clearwater. Disastrous, even if you're just talking about in terms of public relations. The world knows Clearwater, Florida for 3 things: the beach, the Phillies, and Scientology. Most people who know anything about Clearwater, Florida, and Scientology think Scientology owns the town, runs the town. They think that Clearwater is like Scientology's version of like Salt Lake City for the Mormons. When in reality, like Scientology just wants everyone to think it owns and controls Clearwater. What Scientology owns and controls is downtown Clearwater. But because of Scientology's presence in downtown, and because Clearwater is really a beach city, what we call our downtown is a tiny little and now irrelevant section of the city of Clearwater, Florida. It is true that Scientology owns, I don't know, maybe 90% of the property in downtown Clearwater. But in a city of 120,000 people, there's maybe 2,000 Scientologists. And basically their presence here is somewhat irrelevant, but that's not what the world thinks. The world sees headlines about how much property Scientology owns here. And I think it's up to the elected leaders of the city of Clearwater to give the newspapers different headlines to publish. And the last thing you want is to have headlines, Clearwater, Florida sells street to Scientology. Anyway, I'm getting a little off track here. Here's the good news. The 3 of the 5 council members who voted yes on this, it's David Allbritton, David Allbritton's son-in-law, Ryan Cotton, and the 3rd council member is Mike Menino. David Allbritton has issued an ultimatum to David Miscavige. And he says, if you do not meet my demand, I'm changing my vote at the next meeting. This is actually really, really good. It's good that at least one of these 3 council members is showing some spine. Ryan Cotton is still being the coward that the citizens of Clearwater have now learned him to be. Michael Menino's a little on the fence. At least Michael Menino contacted me and asked to have coffee. We're supposed to have coffee sometime this week, and we'll probably discuss what I'm about to discuss in this video. But I have said all along that the very least these 3 council members could have done is to say to David Miscavige, because by the way, David Miscavige has met personally with all of these council members, to say to David Miscavige, hey, you got a proposal you want to make? You think you can show your shiny little slick video of everything you're promising to do to Clearwater? You think you can show me that video privately? You can show the other council members that video privately? You want us to treat you like any other developer or organization in the city of Clearwater? Then why don't you behave like any other developer or organization in Clearwater? Because any other developer or organization in Clearwater, Florida, who wants to do a big old proposal, especially one that's controversial, it's a little bit of scandalous, they would show up at a public meeting and publicly present to the citizens what it is they want to do. You say that you want to be treated like everyone else, but you don't act like anyone else. And I'm not willing to be your poster boy. I'm not willing to run around and be your, be your advocate. You need to be your advocate. So if you want my vote, then you will show up at the next public meeting and show your proposal to all of the voters. That's actually all I ever said these people should do. Have a little bit of spine. If you're going to be a whore, don't give it away for free. Extract a little bit of a price. Asking Miscavige or one of his representatives to show up and do a proposal is not much of a price, but at least it's something. So what has David Allbritton said? Now, all of you, the hundreds of you who have sent emails into the Clearwater City Council members and have received replies, thank you so much for forwarding all of those to me. I saw David Allbritton in his responses had started to respond to emails explaining that he had basically issued this ultimatum to Scientology. I was very happy to hear yesterday that David Allbritton posted this ultimatum publicly to Facebook. This is fantastic. And that's what I'm going to share with you. After I share this with you, let's discuss whether we think Scientology is going to step up to the plate, because I'm not so sure that they will. Okay, here we have David Allbritton on Facebook. He says as follows. Now, the ultimatum isn't until the very end, but let's read his whole post, okay? Let's see what David Allbritton has to say, because this is the response that he's been giving everyone who emails him about this. To all those citizens who have sent emails regarding the sale of Garden Avenue to Scientology, thank you for taking the time to share your opinions. I would probably be writing to my council member in opposition to this sale if I were not a council member, and I guess we're not privy to the concept plan that Scientology shared with me privately during a meeting several months ago. First, let me share some background about myself. I was born and raised in Clearwater, and I've also raised my family here. For over 2 decades, I've been involved in efforts to make downtown Clearwater a more vibrant and better place. This has been a challenge due to Scientology. In recent years, Scientology has instructed its affiliated entities to acquire more than 185 properties, covering over 100 acres in the downtown area. Yet it provided no explanation to the city regarding the reasons for this action or its intended plans. A few months ago, Scientology's chairman, David Miscavige, met with each council member individually to discuss a comprehensive plan crucial for the revitalization of downtown. This plan aims to create a vibrant space, not only for his parishioners, but for everyone in the entire community. He explained that Scientology directed parishioners to acquire many properties to facilitate their development by assembling them for developers. Let me briefly comment that what David Allbritton is saying that David Miscavige admitted to in a private meeting mere months ago is 100% directly contrary to what Scientology said to the Tampa Bay Times when Scientology was asked about all of these properties, almost 200 properties at a cost of over $200 million. The Tampa Bay Times did an investigation and discovered that all these properties had been quietly and secretly acquired in cash for up to 5 or 6 times market value. And Scientology said, "What? My pearls? Us? We don't have anything to do with that. And we are offended at the implication." Scientology lies every step of the way whenever they can. And they're lying now. They're lying now to the council members right now about what their plans are. But I just think it's interesting that what Miscavige admitted to David Allbritton and the other council members reveals the lie they told the press a few years ago. All right, let's keep going. The plan, designed by well-known municipal planning consultants with no ties to Scientology, Well, I'm sorry, excuse me. The fact that they work for Scientology is a tie to Scientology. So I don't know what that statement actually means. But the plan, designed by a well-known municipal planning consultants with no ties to Scientology, includes plans for restaurants, retail establishments along Cleveland Street, stretching from Osceola Avenue to Missouri Avenue. This comprehensive plan requires collaboration with the city of Clearwater for successful implementation. The sale of the Garden Avenue property represents the initial step in this initiative. Okay, I'm going to bite my tongue there. Scientology plans to build an auditorium on its property, which borders Court Street and Garden Avenue. They also own an additional property west of Garden Avenue, extending to Fort Harrison Avenue. With the acquisition of Garden Avenue between Court Street and Franklin Street, they intend to develop a plaza at the entrance to the new auditorium. The graphic concepts presented to us for this project are a beautiful addition to the entrance of our downtown area. Yes, nothing is as wonderful of an entrance to downtown Clearwater as a massive event hall that says L. Ron Hubbard Hall on it. That's exactly the type of branding the city of Clearwater is looking for. Okay. Okay. David Allbritton continues on. The question we need to consider is whether we can trust Scientology to follow through with its plans for downtown. What are our alternatives? One option is to sell them the small section of Garden Avenue, allowing them to move forward with the development of their auditorium and plaza. This could be the first step toward creating a vibrant downtown. On the other hand, if we choose not to sell Garden Avenue, we may face an indefinite delay in pursuing an opportunity for revitalization in a downtown that has lacked vibrancy for the past 50 years. Okay, so once again, I will interject here that the implication here is that Scientology isn't actually interested in developing downtown Clearwater. They're only interested in convincing the city council that the city council might be able to convince Scientology to develop downtown Clearwater if the city council is able to give Scientology enough of what it wants. You see, there's just immediately an implication that Scientology doesn't consider developing downtown Clearwater to be something that would benefit itself. There's already an implication that Scientology is acknowledging that it does not care about developing downtown Clearwater. It just knows that the city leaders care. Because if Scientology cared about it, they would have already done it. If Scientology thought developing downtown Clearwater was good for Scientology, it would have already done it. It wouldn't be trying to haggle and horse trade and extract pounds of flesh from the city of Clearwater in exchange for the hope or the promise that one day Scientology might develop downtown Clearwater. I don't know if David Allbritton is aware that this is already what's being implied by his words. I believe he may be aware. I'm not entirely sure, but let's keep going. Okay. Yes. Because why would you face an indefinite delay? Because Scientology doesn't care about developing downtown Clearwater. It only cares about using it as a negotiating tactic. Okay, let's carry on. David Allbritton says, Scientology did not cause the initial decline of downtown. That was caused by merchants and restaurants relocating to the newer boundaries of development and the rise of urban malls during Clearwater's expansion in the late 60s and early 70s. Scientology moved in when Clearwater's downtown was already abandoned. They have been here for 50 years, and it has been an uphill battle to revive the vibrancy. We have an opportunity to make that happen. Their parishioners have already bought the properties to make it happen. I have to once again interject. Saying that Scientology is not to blame for the initial decline of downtown Clearwater kind of misses the entire point. Every other downtown area for every other neighboring town or city to Clearwater has a vibrant, active downtown core. So it kind of misses the point if someone may have misstated, and I may have misstated, that Clearwater is to blame for, the reason Scientology is to blame for the state of downtown Clearwater is because they are presently to blame for the state of downtown Clearwater. It does not matter if downtown Clearwater already was having a problem before Scientology moved to town. The fact is that was in 1975. And since then, every other downtown core around us that had suffered a similar fate back then has succeeded in bringing itself back to life, but not downtown Clearwater. Okay. And Scientology is to blame for that. Okay. Okay. And here's the whole point of this video, guys. Here is what David Allbritton is saying to David Miscavige. Here he goes. I have requested that Scientology make their plan public. Scientology has assured me they will unveil their concept for the new building and overall concept for the downtown at least 2 weeks before the May 17th council meeting. If that doesn't occur, I will assume that Scientology will not live up to their word, and the second reading of the sale of Garden Avenue will most likely fail. Whether you like it or not, they are constituents with the same rights as everyone living in Clearwater. They are the largest taxpayer in the downtown area, and most properties owned by affiliated entities are subject to taxation. There is a lot of misinformation surrounding this subject, so ensure the information you are hearing is accurate and reliable. We must base our decision on facts, not hearsay. Okay. What David Allbritton had actually been saying to people in the emails was slightly stronger than all that. So let me quickly pull up one. And all of these emails from David Allbritton to people who have emailed him are subject to public records requests, so anybody can see these for themselves. Unfortunately, so that is Menino. Come on, where's Allbritton? Ugh. Come on. Well, I'll just tell you from memory. In the emails, David Allbritton specifically said, the core of what's at issue here is whether Scientology can be trusted to keep their word and follow through on the development plans they have privately shared with the city council members. And David Allbritton said in the emails, since that is what is at issue here, and since I told Scientology that I wanted them to make their plans public, and since they promised me they would do so approximately and at least 2 weeks prior to the next meeting where we're scheduled to vote on this, he said, if they do not make their plans public, I will assume they cannot be trusted and I will vote no. Now you go, okay, why is it in the emails he said, I will vote no? And in his post, he said, it will, let's see, I will assume they will not, and the second reading of the sale will most likely fail. That might be because although in the initial vote, 3 people voted yes and 2 people voted no, I think David Allbritton is pretty much not at liberty to assume that the 2 no votes will stay no votes. They will likely stay no, but it's really, city council members aren't actually allowed to talk with each other about city council business unless it's at a city council meeting. It's according to Florida's Sunshine Law. I do not believe that David Allbritton is soft pedaling in any way in his Facebook post what he has said in the emails. I just want to make it clear that his emails used stronger language, and David Allbritton has basically issued an ultimatum. If Scientology does not make their development plans available to the public before the vote, David Allbritton will be voting no. And that is really good news because I personally do not believe Scientology will make its plans public. I could be wrong. If I were to, if you had to put a percentage on it, I feel 70%, I find 70% in favor of the outcome. Scientology will not make their plans public and they will take this hit and figure out what to do next. 30%, 0%, Scientology shows up in person and makes a presentation to the city council at a public meeting. I say 0% on that. I'm saying 30% Scientology makes their video, because it was like a video presentation. It was like some digital fly-through rendering presentation. 30% Scientology decides to make the presentation available on a website. And I'll tell you why I don't think they're going to do that. The video that Miscavige has shown to the city council members, there's absolutely no public documentation of any kind whatsoever of what it is that David Miscavige has promised these council members he's going to do. There's zero documentation. It's not like he gave the city council members a video. No, he showed the city council members a video. If he were to make this video available on a website, the media and the public would now have evidence of what David Miscavige has said he's going to do. Here's what's a little unclear. Council members like Ryan Cotton have all but represented that David Miscavige has promised, verbally, by the way, if you sell us South Garden Avenue, let me show you what we're going to do for the city of Clearwater. But Ryan Cotton even admitted that they asked David Miscavige to put this into writing, and he said no. Who are we kidding? If he won't put it into writing, it's because he has no intention on following through. You see, South Garden Avenue is not what David Miscavige really wants. David Miscavige wants the lot behind the Fort Harrison Hotel. Ryan Cotton even admitted that in these current discussions with Scientology, we should be happy that the city worked out such a good deal with Scientology, because South Garden Avenue isn't all David Miscavige was asking for. David Miscavige was asking for 3 properties. South Garden Avenue was only one of them. Well, we have since learned that at least one of those 3 properties that he was asking for is the property Miscavige actually wants, which is the big lot directly to the east of the Fort Harrison Hotel. That's what he really wants. He's not going to give you a damn thing until he gets that. The only reason he's playing pretend with you now is to keep you at the negotiating table, to keep you on the hook, to raise the stakes. He hasn't promised you anything in writing. So if you sell him South Garden Avenue, he knows that you think he's going to do all these wonderful things for Clearwater. But because you've gotten no guarantees from him of any kind whatsoever, he's just going to kick the can down the road a little bit longer. And then eventually he's going to come back to you and he's going to go, God, you know what? I just feel like this isn't right. I just feel like this isn't right. I think you really need to sweeten the pot a little bit. Otherwise, we're going to take a pass for now. So the problem is that David Miscavige has succeeded in convincing at least 4 city council members, because Lena Teixeira voted no on the first reading, but Lena Teixeira has still been convinced by David Miscavige that she should be really, really desirous of a Scientology-led development of downtown. And Lena Teixeira only voted no because she wasn't able to get a written guarantee from David Miscavige that he's going to activate and develop some of these properties that they're talking about. So Lena voted no, but Lena could vote yes if she gets something that feels more like a guarantee from David Miscavige. And the problem is the Clearwater City Council members need to understand they have to get rid of the idea of an actual future partnership with Scientology for downtown Clearwater. If Scientology wanted to develop downtown Clearwater, they wouldn't spend 20 years negotiating terms. They would just do it. If David Miscavige wanted, and if the Scientology constituents wanted a developed downtown Clearwater, they would do it. Scientology doesn't ask for permission. They do what they want. And so that is why I do not think they will make a public presentation of their plans. Right now, they only look like liars. They would only look like liars to the 5 people who've seen the video. Is David Miscavige willing to look like a liar to the entire city? Is he willing to give that to the Tampa Bay Times? That power, that ammunition over him? I don't think so. See, because David Miscavige doesn't really want to develop downtown, he also doesn't really care if the media and the city council points their fingers at him for it not being done. Because all David Miscavige does is point the fingers right back at them. He goes, I told them I would develop downtown Clearwater if they sold me that street. And then they didn't sell me that street. They knew what they were doing when they didn't sell me that street. But it's all a ruse. It's all a show. He doesn't give a damn. And let's be honest, the only reason David Miscavige wants that street is because if it's privately owned, then there's no public easement, aka a sidewalk. There's a sidewalk, but it won't be owned by the city. David Miscavige is building a big event hall. He's going to hold all of his Scientology events there instead of renting Ruth Eckerd Hall once a year, and instead of renting the Shrine Auditorium once a year in LA. He's going to hold all of his events there, 5 or 6 events a year. He doesn't want any protesters to be able to be on the sidewalk outside of the event hall. And if the city, if the street is owned by the city, then the sidewalk is a public easement and anyone can stand there, including protesters. And David Miscavige doesn't want that. That's all this is. And I wish the city council members would actually truly understand that what this is an effort to restrict the right to protest in the downtown sector. Now, guys, just a couple weeks ago, protester Erica in the live chat as a definite trouble source was arrested by the Clearwater police while protesting because they didn't like where she was standing. Okay. And then what's it? Saturday night, last night, I was trespassed by the Clearwater police from the Fort Harrison Hotel for simply walking 3 feet off of the public sidewalk up to the front door of the Fort Harrison Hotel. The door was closed. There was no security personnel. There's no signs. There's nothing that says private property, do not enter, do not trespass. No signs, no security personnel. I walked 3 feet up to the door, looked in the door for a second, walked away. I was on the property for 15 seconds. I touched nothing. I spoke to no one. And I was issued a trespass warning by the Clearwater police and told next time I would be arrested. Scientology is already working to curb the First Amendment rights of Clearwater citizens to protest. This effort to buy the street is just taking that to a whole nother level. I wish the city council members would understand that. And I wish the city council members would understand you can't negotiate with terrorists. David Miscavige is like the terrorist of Clearwater, Florida. Stop letting him trick you. So David Allbritton has issued the ultimatum. He's thrown down the gauntlet. Show your presentation to the public or get lost. Thank you, David Allbritton, for doing the least any of the 3 of you could have done. Ryan Cotton is still David Miscavige's whore, and Michael Menino is still on the fence. Let's see if Ryan Cotton will still vote yes, even if Miscavige or any Scientology representative fails to make this presentation public. All right, we got a few super chats here and we'll wrap this one up. Rib Guy says, this is a public street. There is no reason it should change. Leave our public property alone. If anything, allow it to be used for public access as a memorial to the early occupants. Absolutely. New Life Plan, resist sweet Clearwater. You got this. Mary James, save the garden. Oh, thank you. Thank you for reminding me. I actually meant to share that website. Here we go. Guys, this is the website for the alternative project, the alternative and highest and best use of this street for the people of Clearwater, the Save the Garden Project. The website is savethegarden.org. I've already put a link to this in the video description down below. Moderators, please feel free to share it in the live chat. Guys, there is a petition that I would like to ask all of you to fill out on this website to support the Save the Garden Project. It would mean a lot to me and be very important to me. And thank you for all of you who will go to this website and fill out that petition. Eat More Pizza Now gifted 5 channel memberships. Thank you so much, Eat More Pizza Now. I appreciate it. Constance June says, wasn't it L. Ron Hubbard and this Scientology policy? Wait, wasn't it Hubbard and this Scientology policy? Oh, that if it is not in writing, it is not true. Has someone showed that to the council? That's actually a really great point. To the Clearwater City Council members, L. Ron Hubbard, the policy letter might even be called First Policy. I forget. There's First Policy. There's anyway. It is one of the most important rules in Scientology. If it is not written, it is not true. And if the leader of Scientology operates on that basis as one of his most core fundamental precepts, what kind of a fool is he making of you to expect you to take his word as true when he will not put it in writing? And how foolish are you looking, Ryan Cotton and Michael Menino, to constantly be telling all of the constituents, David Miscavige told us that this is what he's going to do. what choice do we have? If it isn't written, it isn't true. Tell David Miscavige that you know what policies Scientologists operate off of, and you are offended that he expects you to operate off of anything less. Abigail gifted 5 channel memberships. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And Julia O'Connell says, thank you, Aaron. Hashtag save the garden. Save the garden indeed. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, guys. I know it's 9:45, but I got one more video in store, and it has to do with the trespass. So stay tuned. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.